So thanks for having me. A couple things about this presentation. I know that not everybody will be like a backcountry skier, that some people are maybe more into climbing, but this trip plan presentation can be for both for skiing and for climbing as well, or any kind of expeditions, but it is definitely got a lot of skiing components to it because I love skiing. And so I'll start off here and share my screen and we will get started here. Awesome. So welcome to planning a backcountry tour. The first things we'll be kind of going over here is, kind of the hit list I like to start with is picking your objective and goals, forming your crew together, checking the weather, how to check for the avalanche forecast, where to look to find that in your area. Considerations when picking a route and terrain, types of tools and gadgets I like to use, and then also planning the trip, making it, you gather all this information, putting it at the end, and actually using it for you to get your objective to go. I like to start off with picking your objective. Before you start your trip, you need to ask yourself and your team a lot of these questions. And what are they? What are we going to go and ski and climb? What are the risk and tolerance level that we have here? Objective match, does the objective match your group skill? How flexible are we? Do we have plans A, B, and C? And then who's coming with me and how many? So when picking your objective, it's really important to make sure it matches your group. Oftentimes I run into groups that they'll go out and let's say it's a group of 4, 2 people are friends and 2 other people are friends, and they bring them together and then maybe their objective isn't matching their ability. And it's really important to make sure that that lines up, because when you can get out there, you can really sandbag yourself there. Risk and tolerance level, like we all have different risks and tolerance level, and we need to make sure that we're all on the same page when we do that. And then your plans A, B, and C, making sure that you are flexible. If you pigeonhole yourself and have just one plan, it can really set yourself up to not maybe matching or maxing out the day. And then who's coming with you and how many? A lot of the times when I go on the backcountry or if I'm ski guiding, I like to only take max of 4 people. That's a total of 5 people in the mountains. Anything after that, you'll find that some guide operations do bigger groups, but have more guides. But it's a lot of people talking and a lot of minds going at once there. So 5 people, there's that saying like too many cooks in the kitchen, and so it can get a little messy when you start getting the group really large there. So when picking the objective and doing the research for it, you got to do your research and find the beta for it. It's really also important to know whose land you're accessing. When you're guiding, a lot of times commercial, you need to make sure that you have the right commercial permits for the area. Now, if you're just a rec user, if you're recreation, making sure that you're not on private property, making sure you're on public access, making sure how you're getting to that objective, making sure you're doing it properly. And then making your plan B, like making sure everyone's okay with it. A lot of times people will have this plan, maybe plan B and C, but they're really dead set on plan A, but making sure that you're really okay with your plan B and C if plan A doesn't work out, and really maximize that day for yourself. When you're picking your objective, what time of the week, year, and season are you doing it? Is this an objective in the spring? Are we going to be looking at things that we need to worry about for like weather, solar conditions, or is this going to be a weekend objective? Is it going to be super busy at that trailhead or where we're going to go? So those are things you need to take in consideration when picking your objective. Again, does this objective fit the group? What type of fun this is going to be? There's that type 1, type 2, type 3 fun. Type 1 fun is that kind of just like the cruisy. Type 2 is that, wow, that was really hard, but that was really fun. And then that type 3 was like, that really sucked. But at the end of it, that's really fun. So making sure that you kind of like set the expectations for your goals. A lot of the research tools I like to use for your objectives and for what I'm going to be going after is obviously Google. You can type in things that, like, if it's a local place, maybe it has a lot of information on Google. Local knowledge and friends, that's a huge one as well. Asking people that your peers or your mentors and stuff like that about the areas that you want to check out and ski or climb. Online message boards. I'm not on Facebook, but Facebook tends to have a lot of those groups that you can get on and find like some backcountry users groups and like, hey, I'm interested in skiing this one place in Stevens Pass. What do you know about it? Or has anyone skied there recently? They're like, yeah, I think Reddit has some as well for groups. Mountain Project, that's a good one. That's ran by REI, I believe. And that's a good one for climbing mostly. I think they have one for skiing as well called Powder Project. And then there's one for rock climbing. Gaia, CalTopo, and Onyx are great mapping tool programs. Those map tool programs, you can go into them and they can also look for public tracks. So you can see where people have gone in the past if they share tracks, and then you can kind of get an idea of what you're looking at and stuff like that. And then obviously guidebooks. Up here in Alaska, the guidebooks here are a little bit on the thinner side, but down in the lower 48, there's a lot more guidebooks for the Washington area, Oregon area, Idaho area. We're trying to get up on that with the guidebooks here in Alaska as well. Sizing up your crew, the risk and the reward. I think being really kind and honest with your crew is really important. Being transparent, being like, hey, I'm not, I haven't skied this many times this year, or I'm looking to go for this objective, instead of just being quiet and then kind of like having a problem at the end, really being up forward with what's going on with your crew. And then asking your crew questions. How many days you have this year? Hey, have you been skiing all season, or is this your first day? How are you feeling mentally and physically? Are you distracted? If we're in the mountains together, we need to be a team and we need to be able to count on each other. So if someone's not feeling super well or have a lot of stuff going on back home and they're just totally somewhere else, that's kind of a red flag for me when I'm in the mountains with my friends or clients. And then how comfortable are you with the objective and the plan? Like really making sure that everyone's into what we're doing and they're interested in as well. And maybe like there's that halo effect. You're like, oh, I'm going to go, but maybe I'm not too comfortable with what's going on. So really making sure you speak up and really making thorough when you ask these people and your friends, are we all on the same page? What are they comfortable doing? Yeah, expert halo. And then why are we doing this? A lot of times people, I think it's really nice when you talk about your objective, like what are we doing this for? Do we want to do this because we love to get on the mountains? Are we trying to get a summit? Are we trying to get a sweet photo for the Instagram? Are we sponsored or something like that? Ultimate glory. So it's really important to like give yourself a little bit of an ego check and make sure you know why you're doing this. And that's really important for that mindset when you're going out in the mountains and when you're making up your crew here. So now we got our crew ready to go. We're going to talk about weather. And so it's not always this beautiful and sunny like this is here with me and Ryan here in the Chugach, but when it is, it's awesome. So there's a lot of things you want to ask yourself about weather, like what do you want to know? So a couple of things is like what happened yesterday, weather history. This is hard facts. These are things that have happened. And so we can use that information to help plan for our objective for the following day or for whatever we're going to be doing. And then what is going to happen today and tomorrow? This is weather forecast. So this is prediction. This isn't fact. That's why it's called a forecast. And so it's really important to know that. And then how will these questions above affect me, my decision-making in my group, completing my objective successfully? So is there weather coming in? Are we going to be able to get this objective done? Is there a ton of snow? Are we going to need to be able to dial it back on the skiing, on our slope angle? Or is there going to be avalanches? All this is important to know when you're looking for weather. And then what's something that's really advanced that you want to do if you start doing a lot of this is you can start forecasting for yourself your weather and then looking at other forecasts and seeing how they compare. And if you keep doing this and you're seeing patterns, then maybe you're doing something right, or maybe you're finally getting this forecast that's working for the area you're in. A lot of the resources I like to use for those forecasts is Windy. That's an awesome one. There's so many cool tools on there, and we'll talk about that later and what you can do there. No is a great one here for the States. Wonderground is a nice one, a nice fast one. Mountain Weather Light, I'll show you guys that one as well. That's a great one that's made by Jim Woody down in Jackson Hole, and he has this great website for a lot of like the mountain states and like where you can get a lot of the weather data. Other weather apps, obviously, that you find. I'm not going to use the iPhone weather app and stuff like that. I'm going to look for stuff that's a little bit more complex and a little bit more has more options for models and stuff like that. Local weather stations, and I can talk a little bit about that and how to find those for you, and those can help you out when it comes to your weather and forecasting it and looking at weather history. So now we talked about weather forecasting. Now we got to talk about avalanche forecasting. And this applies for climbing, ice climbing, skiing, all that stuff. Anytime you're in the mountains and there's snow, we need to talk about avalanche forecasting. This is a great photo of me and my friend here, Patrick, up in the Alaska range. And we were at the airstrip and we got to see this avalanche go off. It's like a loose drag coming down. So avalanche forecast, the avalanche community has a great mantra. It's called know before you go. And then after know before they go, they like to emphasize getting the forecast, get the gear, get the training, and get the picture. Local avalanche forecast zones can be found on avalanche.org. So on avalanche.org, and I think Mary is going to drop a link for that, it can show you, you can zoom out some interactive map and you can see all the forecasted areas that have avalanche forecasters for, and then what the hazards are, and you can click on them and it'll take you to that avalanche forecast website. So let's say you live in Washington, or maybe you live in Leavenworth, your forecasting will be up in there. But then as you can see here, like in Colorado, you can see where the forecasting zones are as well. When you're looking at forecasting websites, they can be a little bit confusing, a little bit jargon, unless you've taken a level 1, Rec 1. And I really recommend that if you're going to start doing a lot of backcountry use. AI gives a couple of courses in the winter, and I think we still have some available. And it's really nice to take that course, because then once you take that course, you can start to read the avalanche forecast a lot smoother, and a lot of the information you're seeing you can understand. But if you haven't taken a Rec 1, or there's some information on these avalanche forecasts that you haven't, you just don't understand the wording, you can always go to avalanche.org, and there's something called the Avalanche Encyclopedia. You can type in whatever you're reading on the avalanche forecast, and it will tell you kind of like what it is. So if you're like not quite sure what that is, you can go in there. I think one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is that we rely heavily on these avalanche forecasts, but at least in Alaska and a lot of other places in the world and in mountain states, there isn't a forecast for it. And so it's really important to like be able to kind of do your own avalanche forecasting if there isn't a forecaster out there. And something that I like to talk about is, you know, it's really important to say that you are your own forecaster when it makes to making choices that fit your group and your decision making and your risks. Forecasters, they give you information and they give you data, but they're not out there to like save lives. Forecasters can't, they hate it when you say, hey, like, thanks for keeping us safe. That's not their job. Their job is to provide information for you that fits your decision making, and so your risk tolerance. And then looking for red flags. And so a lot of times those red flags, when you're going out, if you can go out somewhere without avalanche forecasts, you're going to be looking for those cracking and wumping, high winds, rapid warming, recent avalanches, and then rapid precip. So lots of snow overnight or during the day. So now that we've done our weather forecast and our avalanche forecast, we're going to talk about planning a route and looking for the terrain. Things to consider for when using that. There's a lot of cool apps out there, and they're only getting better and better. They are costing money, but they're pretty affordable. There's epic tools out there for route planning. Onyx Backcountry is a great one. Caltopo is a great one, and Gaia GPS. Those are my 3 favorites. They all 3 have smartphone applications. And then they also have applications for desktop. So sometimes it's nice to do your route and terrain finding on the computer and then switch it over to your smartphone for when you're in the field. This is a whole nother seminar or webinar about this, and I'd love to give one about just all the cool tools you can do. So we lose like hours on like how to just run Caltopo, but I recommend downloading some of these. Onyx and Gaia will give you like a 7-day free trial. Caltopo is free unless you want to start downloading more maps, then you have to pay for the pro. And I recommend download them and just on a weekday, you know, you're winding down after the day, just like play around with it. It's a great way to explore, play with the layers, stuff like that. And you're just like, whoa, these things are amazing. So the resources are really cool. And this is where I get really excited. And there's no excuse to be like saying like, I don't know where I'm going, or I don't know how to get there, because we have the amazing tools. And I bet people back when they were first doing all these mountain expeditions would be like, wow, I really wish I had this. So play around with those. But these things, you need to be redundant. You need to have a paper map and compass with you, and you know how to use it. So like if you're relying heavily on your smartphone, you're out there and you're cold temps or phone breaks, something like that, you need to have a backup. So that's just 101 when going to the mountains. So when we're making our route and picking our terrain, a couple of tips I like to use is making waypoints. On these apps, you can drop waypoints, and I like to pick about every 2 to 5 miles, or even shorter if I need to make critical moves around cruxes or critical areas or hazards. If I need to look for bridge crossings or something like that, or if there's like particular areas that I know of that can be a hazard, I'm going to put waypoints in there so that I know where to go to those. When sharing these files, you can download them in GPX, KML, and KMZ. And again, that's a whole nother can of worms to talk about. But that stuff is how you transfer the data of the tracks and routes you're making. And so depending on which application you use, but GPX works great amongst all three of the apps I talked about earlier. And you can airdrop them, or if you're on Android, I think you can Bluetooth send them and text them and stuff like that. And then you can open them up in the app. So if you're going to make this route on one of those applications, it's really crucial that everybody has this route in your group. It's not going to do you any good if you have the only route and then your phone dies or something like that. You're like, oh, we don't have a map anymore. So making sure being redundant with all those files. I love to use satellite imagery, current and historical, for looking for open tree runs and glacier routes and stuff like that. We have a lot of complex glacier terrain up here that leads up to some amazing skiing. So I'm always looking at satellite imagery as things are changing. We don't have as much tree runs as maybe down in Washington does. And so if you're in Washington, the tree run thing will be more applicable. It's really cool that and I'll show later how you can find cool tree runs without doing a bunch of bushwhacking, because nobody wants to just like go through the brush and stuff like that. And then there's a really cool app called Guide Pace app. It's free. It's using the Munter rate, when the Munter is a rate that was developed by I think a Swiss mountain guide, and he developed this rate. And so this formula, so you can figure out when you're making your plans and you're making your route, how to calculate how long it's going to take you to get from point A to point B on skis, climbing, uphill and downhill. Chris Burkhardt, Full Pin Guide, made the app, which is really cool and it's free. And you can just type in Guide Pace app. And I think Mary might put a link in there in the chat as well. And it's really cool. You can see here, the Munter rate, he came up with the rate and the units, and don't ask me how he came across that. I'll have to look more into that. And then you can you type in your distance and then your elevation, and then I'll calculate how long it'll take you this is ski touring up, and then you can say down. And then on the bottom, you see the class 1, 2, and class 3 and 4, class 5. And so that's a really cool one. So that's an awesome app. Slope angle layers, we'll talk about that a little bit later. There's these really cool layers you can use on these map programs, and you can start to see how steep the terrain is. And so this is a great way to stay out of avalanche terrain if you need to navigate, or if you're getting into avalanche terrain, you're trying to look for something that's steeper. This is a great way to find that. But typically I like to use it to stay out of avalanche terrain. And avalanche terrain is typically anything under 30 degrees of a slope angle. And then keeping a lat and long, and then also a copy of the UTM coordinates on paper with you, so that you can use it in your compass, and then also use it on other apps. And then keeping lat and long for your exit and parking, wherever you parked your car, where your exits are, and write that down and give that to everybody. And also give that to people that aren't with you, like maybe the person you're making a trip plan with, so that you'll have that redundancy of kind of coordinates where you need to go. So we've talked about all that stuff about weather forecasts. And so let's go ahead and start talking about what I like to put in my pack. The first thing is I try to get everything as light as possible, and only things I'm really going to use. This is a shot of my repair kit. I love to use ripstop tape, ski strap, skin clip. That's for the tip of the ski, your skin. So if you like rip that, that's really important to have. Extra parts for your specific ski binding, multi-tool, knife, ski basket, lighter, tape, zip ties, drill bits and fasteners. Those have become really handy. You can go to Lowe's and you can make yourself a little repair kit, and this thing weighs just like a pound or just under that, and it's really cool to have. And I've used almost everything in that picture right there. And I think Mary will also drop some links in there as well on what's in there. For gear, I like to carry in my my backpack. Obviously, your beacon, shovel, probe, snow saw. Your beacon should be on you, not in your backpack. Spare goggles, extra large puffy layer, emergency sled shelter. There's a couple companies making these really cool ripstop sleds. The one I have is made by Alpine Threadworks. There's another company called So Alpine out of Colorado, and then there's another one in Washington, and I'll remember the name in a second. But they make these really cool Dyneema or ripstop sleds that you can If you need emergency, you can pull your friend out, or you can use them as a tarp and make a shelter with. They're really cool. Almost every ski guide has one, or pretty much required. Inside my pack, I'll have that repair kit in there. I'll have that med kit, trauma kit, and then I'll have the tech kit. And I'll talk a little bit about what the tech kit is. And then if I'm going to get into some ski mountaineering or glacial travel, I have a list here of kind of like the basic bare minimal, like I like to carry at all times. And then depending on my objective, I might throw gear in there or take away gear, but 5 lockers, 4 non-lockers, 1 to 2 ice screws, 2 double length slings, 1 prusik, 1 ATC. And then this is the crucial part. If you're going to be doing glacial travel, obviously you need to be pretty up to date on your glacial travel and your crevasse rescue skills. But I found that 30-meter ropes is just not enough for crevasse rescue. And you need a 50 to 60-meter rope. And so a lot of times you'll see ski guides carrying the rad line, which is a really skinny hyperstatic rope. The rad line has some limitations. So some people like to bump it up to 7 to 8 millimeter rope, but 50 to 60-meter rope is really crucial for if you're going to be doing a full crevasse rescue, if you need to, because you need to be going there and then be able to come back out and build a complex system. And then I like to carry lightweight ice axe with the ad side because I like to be able to like carve into the ice and stuff like that. Hammers are fun, but I think ads are more useful. And that's about it for in my pack. I got my tech kit here, and this is real basic. I got the headlamp, spare batteries for the headlamp. I love this Petzl headlamp. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one that you can put it underneath your helmet. It's awesome helmet. Awesome headlamp, apologize. And then a inReach, that's your communications. I carry a sat phone as well. And then my compass as well. And then I have a Goal Zero. This Goal Zero is great because it's the Sherpa 15. It can plug into the inReach and it can plug into my iPhone. So I don't have to carry a bunch of cords with me as well. All right. So all that stuff in there, we'll go ahead and throw it in there, and we're going to make ourselves an AM workflow here. So just bear with me here while I go to the next screen here. I'm going to stop and share that. And then this is kind of like, how do I go from all that stuff I just talked about? How do I work my way through and make myself a nice workflow and a nice system, and so that I can see every step of the way in my planning and making sure that I'm not missing any steps, and that when I go out in the mountains, I kind of have the best picture possible when I'm moving around the mountains. Because once you're out there, it's just you. One place I like to start, let's just say, for example, we're in Alaska. There's a place I want to go ski. I kind of want a big picture of what's going on with the weather for the week. I'll go to that one place I said was called Mountain Weather Light. This is a great place. It's got Jackson Hole, Mountain States, Alaska, California, Colorado, all the states that got mountains in them. It's got New England in there as well for those East Coast crew. Your weather maps. This is a great place to look at all these maps. One that I love to go to is Surface Maps. This is going to be a great one for big picture. This is kind of, you can see what systems are happening here. So like right now we have this awesome high pressure going on, and then there's this low pressure here, but this low pressure isn't even that low, and we've just been getting awesome sun, almost too much sun though. It's getting pretty warm. And then so I'll take a look at all these models, and then I'll roll on over to Windy, which I was talking about, another great website tool. I'm going to be looking at, let's say I want to go ski in a popular place called Tin Can, or in the Turnagain Pass area. And if I want to, like, I can drop a pin here, I can get some weather, and I'll be wondering what's going on here. I'll click this guy, and then down here I'll push the compare button. And then it's really important is like when you grab weather from these websites. So this is a website that provides weather for you, but it's grabbing a bunch of data from everywhere. So it's not necessarily saying like this is cold hard facts of what we think is going to happen with the forecast, but this is cold hard facts as far as from each model. And so it's really important to look at this and compare them. And if you see tons of inconsistency, then there's just not a real high confidence in the weather and the forecasting. And so that can be a real red flag for me. So I'm like, okay, so not really anyone knows what's going on with the weather. And so it's kind of unpredictable. So maybe I'll dial back my objective, or I'll just kind of keep it low. But right now we can compare all the weather models here. And we have your GFS model, which is American, the Euro model, the I love the Euro model. And then the NAM and the HER, I like to use those ones as well. The Meadow Blue is another one app that like brings data in. But as you can see here, you got high pressure all across the board here. And the wind directions are all green. The temps are all green. Everything is in agreement except like the NAM thinks it's going to be a little bit stronger winds, but that's about it. So I have strong confidence that in my ski tour plan that I'm going to be doing here, that I'm going to have really good weather and relatively the same temps, like everything in the mid to high 20s. So now that I've checked that out, I'm going to go look at the weather station. And so the Avalanche forecast websites, so in Washington, it's the National Weather Avalanche Center, I think, and then Chugach Avalanche Center, and then there's Idaho one, Oregon one. All those avalanche centers have what they call weather station maps. You can go to those under, obviously, I think the tab would be weather. And this is where you can get your weather history. And so let's keep talking about, excuse me there. We're talking about skiing in the Turnagain Pass area. Again, this place called Tin Can. So there's these little circles here, and these are where you can find weather stations. And so I can click this, and this is where I can get my weather history. So I can, this is a cold hard fact. So I'm like, okay, I know that it's been recorded, unless there's something going on with the weather station, it's having a malfunction. I can see the winds were coming at west northwest. The speeds were around 6 with gusts up to 13, and I have the timestamps, and then there's the temps as well. So some weather stations will have wind, temperature, direction, and then other ones will we call snow tell sites, and those ones will kind of give you an idea of precip. So you can go look this one, it can tell you what the precip is. I'm seeing no precip in the last 20, it's a 0 across the board, 0, 0, 0. So it hasn't snowed in the last 24 hours. So I'm not too worried about any like tons of precip. Maybe I won't go skiing there too. There's probably been not much snow there. So I looked at the weather history. I looked at compared to models. Now I'm going to look at the weather discussion. And this is another big picture one. You can grab this at the National Weather Service Weather Forecast Office, NOAA, and you can just type in the state and it will give you kind of a really, really dry, really dry and boring model discussion. But you can pick in some stuff out here, and he's going to say the same thing here. They're going to talk about what models are green, what models aren't, and then what their conclusion comes with the information that they're gathering. And this is like meteorologists. So these guys are pretty good, but again, they're also not, they're not perfect. So that's why it's a forecast. And then I like to go to the 7-day, which is another nice one. You can find this on the NOAA website. And so this is for the Turnagain Pass area again. So today, sunny with a high near 37, northwest winds 5 to 10. So again, it's looking like a great day to go skiing. And then this is for those that are like trying to figure out where the best snow is. You can go to the National Weather Service and you can type in find the snow data. This one's for the Alaska Pacific RFC, sorry, and this is the Alaska snow data. And so you can click it here and click to the 1-day change. So that's the 24-hour change. And so all across the board, it's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And these are all stations. So I know, okay, it hasn't snowed anywhere, but I could use this tool if I want to find where like it snowed the most, if I'm looking for that powder. But we're kind of, it's March now, we're stepping into that kind of like, we're spring skiing now. We're switching to north aspects. We're looking for that cold snow. Hopefully it'll start snowing again soon, but we'll see. And then I'm going to go into the avalanche forecast. And so now that I've done all my weather, and I know my weather history, and I know what's going to happen, I know what has happened, we're going to tackle the avalanche forecast. So I'm linked up with the avalanche forecast. This is today's forecast. I have it so that it emails to me every day when it comes out at 7 a.m. So most of your avalanche forecasters, you can jump on their newsletter chain and it gives you the forecast in your email every morning. So even if I'm not in the area, let's say I'm ski guiding somewhere else, but I'm going to come back to this area, it's nice to stay up to date with what's going on. And so I'm looking at the avalanche forecast. I'm seeing Alpine moderate and then tree line low, below tree line. And then they're talking about the recent avalanches they've been seeing. And then this is down here with their avalanche problems, their number one problem. And so when they give the problems, the first problem is their priority, and then it works its way down. And so they try not to overload with tons of problems. So they'll probably only give you 1 to 3 problems. So their first problem is they're talking about wind slabs. And then they don't even have a second problem. Their additional concerns of persistent slab that's been almost dormant now. It's pretty stubborn. And so then we can look at all this. We look at the weather, and then the really important thing that I've been training myself to do, and that a lot of people sometimes glass over real quick, is reading observations. This one you gather so much information from just day users, and a lot of these avalanche forecasts are really recommending and really encouraging when you go out. If you're gonna, avalanche forecast, it doesn't cost anything to like take this information, so why not be a part of the community? So if you're ever going out there, they love getting observations, even if it's basic stuff, just like, hey, I noticed the snow is really good, or hey, I noticed the snow quality is really poor. Or if you're starting to do your rec 1 and rec 2 and you know how to start digging pits and stuff like that, doing snow pit tests, stability tests, giving those results is like, avalanche forecasters love that stuff, because there are only a handful of people that work at these forecast sites, so they can't just like be everywhere at once. So look, I can look at this observation page here, and I got it will label here who's a forecaster and someone who's just like a rec user or backcountry user. And so you can kind of look through here. So you got observations, avalanches, and stuff like that. And so you can gather so much information, especially if it's an area that you want to go ski. So I'm looking in here. I don't see anything that's on Tin Can. This is all from the Turnagain Pass area. So all this observation stuff could be relevant to me. So let's say we all look at it. We'll gather a bunch of information there. So now that we've done our weather, we've done our avalanche forecast. So now it's time to pull all that information in, and then let's go to the map and kind of get a big picture of where we're going to start and how we're going to get there and how we're going to get back. And then after that, let's put it all into a trip plan and then execute it. So I'm going to use CalTopo for this one. And so I've already drew out the route here because I didn't want to sit here while I was doing this for you guys. And so this is our route here, and this P right here is the parking lot, and the flag here is our top, and this is the tin can. This is called this Tin Can Common or Tin Can Bowl. And so you got your route here. It's really easy. Just click add, and you just draw a line right alongside it here. And now that you have your route, you can get a lot of information by just drawing this line here. And so you can click this guy right here, and you can go to terrain stats. And this is really cool. So this starts from the very bottom and goes all the way to the top, and it tells you all of your information from the terrain. So you got, at 0 here, and then all the way, it's going to be a 1.7 mile trip all the way up to an elevation of total of 3,196 feet. It's a 2,187 foot gain with 72 feet of loss as you're going up in the air. And then you can look at these graphs here, and it will tell you what the majority of your aspect will be on. So let's say here, the majority of your aspects where you're going to be skiing is west and north and northwest, which is great because we're looking for that cold snow right now. So we're going to be skiing on northwest aspects. Our slope angle, as you can tell here in the graph here, it's almost all under 30-degree slopes. There's a couple parts where we might be a little bit on some 30-degree slopes. And then I can delve into it a little bit later and show how we can find that as well. And then also these graphs, these color graphs on here, kind of tell you where in your trip you're going to find those terrain slope changes. So you'll be at like 0.3 of a mile, you're going to get to like a 30-degree slope a little bit, but it's a very short part of it. And then that's a whole nother avalanche rec 1 users being able to mitigate and walk through avalanche terrain and stuff like that. A skill that takes time and just a lot of practice. And then you can turn this into a PDF, and then you can send it to friends and stuff like that. And you can put this in your trip plan as well. And then also play with it a lot. You can modify it, and then you can also calculate travel time. You can throw in some information in there, and then it will calculate for you how long it should take you as well. And then we'll play with some layers real quick here. So one of the other layers I love to use is this is called the Sentinel Weekly. This is for the pro users. So you have to pay for this, this cool part of it. And what's really awesome is this is satellite imagery. And then I went in with infrared and then used the red coloring, and I can tell you where the trees are. And so this isn't applicable for Alaska because we just don't really have tree skiing, but this is going to be huge for those Oregon, Washington, Idaho skiers that are looking for those open gladed runs where you're like, I'm just tired of like just running into trees. I want some sweet, awesome low angle tree skiing power. And so I can see here, I like almost without even looking at this, I planned my route through the trees here. and then open to the open space here as well. So I really love this, and it's a satellite imagery that's going every week. And so I was playing with it yesterday in Washington, and it was really poor because there's like tons of cloud cover because there's lots of clouds in Washington all the time. And then the next one I like to use, and you can in CalTopo, you can layer these. And so the next one is slope angle shading, and CalTopo, Onyx, and Gaia both have these, and they're all relatively the same with just a little, they use the coloring just a little bit different, but on each app, they're going to have at the bottom or in the map, they're going to have the bar, that a key code to tell you what's the coloring. And so with map, with the CalTopo one, 27 to 29 degrees is yellow, orange is about 30 to 31, and then like a orangish reddish is 32, 34, red is 35 to 45 degrees, and then 46 to 50 degrees is like purple, and then blue is 51 to 59, and then black is like 60 degrees plus. So with this route, I can tell almost the majority of it, I'm not going to be in any type of avalanche terrain. And see these little pixelated things here? This is probably just like tiny little rollers. And then you can see where the big avalanche terrain and the steeper stuff is like all in this other color. So be careful with using this layer, as far as use it. It is a tool, but it's not the end all be all of being like, oh, well, I'm 100% out of avalanche terrain. That is going to take a lot of time for your eyes to calibrate, as well as you're in the mountains, like kind of reading that terrain as well. And then also using an ankleometer and stuff like that to measure out slope angles. So as you're going through this, use it, but don't 100% rely on it. It is a computer, and it's calculating things. It's calculating the map and the topo, and it's trying to figure out what's steep and stuff like that. And so just be really careful with that, but for sure use it. Because the best thing is when you're in avalanche terrain is really knowing if and when you are in avalanche terrain, and how to mitigate and how to move through that. Okay, so that was a lot of stuff right there. So we did our weather, we did our weather history, we did our forecast, we did our avalanche, we did our avalanche forecast, we did our avalanche history, we checked the obs, we've crossed all our stuff here, we looked all of it over here, we looked at everything. So now let's put all that information into a trip plan. Now I'm not going to fill out the whole trip plan for you guys, but I did give it to Mary, and I believe Mary's going to throw it in the link box. I apologize already, is when I converted it into a PDF document, like a fillable one, some of the boxes got moved around somehow. So don't use this one for your trips, but please feel free to take a look at it and then make your own trip plan from that. And then you can also hop online. There's a lot of other trip plan templates as well, but feel free to use this one to like make your own kind of workflow as well. And I'll walk us through it real quick here, but I'm not going to fill it all out. So first thing is I start off with is how many people in my group, the date, names in my group, route area, route name, objective and goals. So we're going to go to Turnagain Pass. We're going to go to Tin Can, Common Bull, and our objectives to ski north facing, northwest, cold pow, low angle stuff, just nice little mellow skipping, powder skiing. Our start time, what time we're going to start this trip at, our person of contact. This is somebody that I like to have that's not with us, that's, in town, that is around cell service, that can be kind of, they know our trip plan. I'm probably going to send this to them. I'm going to email it to them or give them a copy and be like, hey, look, I'm in the field. Will you be my person of contact? Kind of like I made a flight plan or a trip plan with them. And then I give them the projected end time. This is what time I think I'm going to be out of the field, or what time I may be done. And then there's the freak out time, which is really a really important time to have in there. So this is the time that if my person of contact doesn't hear from me by the projected end time, or doesn't hear from me from the freak out time, it's time to freak out. It's time to call emergency services or whatever you have set up with your friend. If you have an SOP or some type of a certain way, like with my guiding and my work, I have an SOP that, so if you don't hear from me, these are the first steps I want you to do, and this is the next steps to do, and stuff like that. In these boxes, I'll put the personal local, WX stands for weather. I'll put the personal local weather forecast obs in there for the area, temps, winds, and precip. Those are the things I'll be looking for. And then previous FX obs for the area. FX is abbreviating for avalanche. So these are those are the observations I grabbed from the avalanche forecast, and I'm going to throw those in there. And then I check the weather and forecast obs, because sometimes I'll be going into my workflow and I'll be moving so fast that I don't see every single observation. And so I really wanted to give myself hold myself responsible and really give myself that check mark. Like, hey, I really did a thorough check. I've looked at all of the past weather and past avalanches and stuff like that happened in the area that I'm going to. Summary weather forecast, this is where I kind of come up with my conclusion of what I've been gathering and what I'm seeing amongst all the models, Euro, all that stuff. Like, this is what I think is going to happen, and this is how it's going to affect my decision making today. Personal FX hazard rating. So forecasting websites, as you saw, they're going to give you 3 zones. They're going to give you the high Alpine, they're going to give you the mid, and then they're going to give you the low. So there's Alpine, tree line, and below, and those all change for wherever you're at. So our Alpine's different for what Washington's Alpine's different. So making sure you know that. And that's kind of my personal one. A lot of the times the places I'm skiing or I'm guiding, I don't have an avalanche forecast for the area. So I have to make my own forecast. And then local forecast talk, that's kind of where I put in what the other forecasters are talking about for areas that are close by. And then this is my checklist. This is my first aid, hardware, ropes, sat phone, inReach, rescue sled, bivy, repair kit, all that stuff you guys saw earlier with the photos. Trip plan made with someone. This is really crucial. If nobody knows where you are in the mountains, that just doesn't really work. So it's really important to have some people that know where you are and what's going to happen, or like, and what to do if something does happen. More layers and hydro and food. So many times I forgot lots of water and lots of food, and I've been burned, and nobody likes giving out the really good sandwich they brought with them. So making sure you're not that guy that says, hey, I didn't bring enough water. Operation mindset. This is a little bit more for a professional use template that I kind of put together quickly last night. So it's from an old AM workflow that I made. So some of the stuff, feel free to ignore, but if you want to like dabble into this more advanced avalanche stuff, operation mindset's kind of the mindset I'm going to go into when I'm going out there into the field. Depth, size, aspect, elevation. These are the avalanche problems I'm talking about, and like how big they're going to be, what aspects can I find them at, what elevation bands I can find them at, how big they're going to go, and how deep is the instability in the snowpack. And then the last couple things I like to put in here is travel operations mitigations for the following avalanche problems. Like, what terrain would I like to avoid today? So sometimes you can tell yourself, well, I know that it's, above freezing and it's been really warm lately, so I'm going to stay off southerly aspects. I know that those rocks are getting cooked. A lot of wet loose is happening. I'm looking for that cold snow. So I can type in here, look, I want to stay off southerly aspects. And that kind of holds you and your group accountable and be like, look, we need to stay out of these things, or we're going to be avoiding terrain traps. We're going to be avoiding other types of situations. Concern issues to note. I love to throw in here anything we need to know. Hey, Jim's in my group. He's been going through a lot lately. He still wants to come skiing with us, but he's feeling very distracted. Okay, I have that on my radar. That's something I'm going to be looking for. And then again, I apologize. A lot of these things got moved around in the PDF converter, and so some of them don't line up. And then I have some check mark. Does the forecast vary from your local forecast? So like sometimes I make a forecast and then there's an avalanche forecast, and I like to see if they like match up. And if they don't, I'm curious, like, what am I missing or what are they missing? So it's really important to like kind of see that they add up. And then level of uncertainty. This is a really nice one to have. And it's pretty simple, like how uncertain I am of the day, the trip, the plan, all that stuff. And if you have that mindset, if you tell yourself, well, I have like a low level of uncertainty, that's going to just give you a lot more information. And then if you have a high level of uncertainty, then maybe I'm going to operate the day a little bit differently. I'm going to be stepping things back a little bit. I'm going to be taking things more conservatively. So yeah, just really being thorough with all this stuff here is really crucial. And this is going to help you have a much smoother day when you're out in the mountains. And I think that is all I got for you there. And then I'm not the biggest Zoom user, so I apologize in advance. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. All right.
Whoa, Elias, that was awesome. That was just a fountain of information.
Holy questions. This looks great. Awesome.
Now that we have wrapped up the vision, like, any questions from anyone? If you have questions, just pop them in the Q&A and we do a little Q&A sesh.
Great. Sounds good. Yeah, fire away.
Okay, people, give us your questions.
Questions? Oh, I
No
see.
no questions. You're all like ready to go.
No, I see some questions. I think they're just in the webinar chat, not in the Q&A chat.
Oh, they're in the webinar chat.
Yeah.
What do we got? Okay, we did have a question about ways to sort of estimate and calculate calorie expenditure when you're out in the backcountry. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like making sure you know how to pack snacks.
Yeah. That's super cool. That's awesome question. That's really exciting. Okay, so what you can do is, well, first you need to build a baseline. You need to figure out how much do you burn, like maybe go into a gym or on a bike or something like that and look at what you burn essentially. And then what you're gonna have to do is you're probably gonna have to figure out some way to like either get a smartwatch or a smartphone and stuff like that. And then it's gonna have to calculate your heart rate and then also your BMIs and all that stuff. And you're gonna have to create a bunch of information to create a baseline. And then you're gonna have to do the activity once or twice. And then you can start gathering data and then bring that into your trip planning. And so then when you're saying like, okay, I'm doing a 5K, let's say I did a Nordic ski 5K and I'm burning 300 calories here. You do the math there, you're doing it. Then you can start doing your divide, like, okay, I did a K at a certain calorie. Then you can throw that into your CalTOP. You can be like, well, I'm about to do like 2 miles at 2,000 feet. Then this is going to help you. You can start to add that up. So there's a lot of math, but it looks like the way I would go about it is finding that baseline first. But that is super cool. I've actually done that. I'm going to try that now, one of these trips. And then
I love it.
Previous
Okay,
session.
another question in the chat. Did the Avalanche class layers you demoed come from avalanche.org?
Yeah, sorry, you're real broken up there. Can you try that one more time, Mary?
Well, all he is.
You got me now?
Yeah, whoa, that was weird. Just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No worries. I think I heard the question was about something about the demo about the avalanche.org website.
Yeah. So the layers you showed in your map, were those from avalanche.org or some other site?
Yes, those are from avalanche.org. So you can find every forecast as a part of the avalanche.org. So it's a giant umbrella organization ran by Avalanche, and then the American Avalanche Association helps run it too as well. And you can go to that website, avalanche.org, and it can show you where to find avalanche forecasts for the state you're in. It can also find you providers that teach Rec 1 and Rec 2 and Pro Avalanche courses. So if you're like in Alaska and you're like, who teaches avalanche courses, you can type in Alaska and it's going to give you a list of who teaches those courses, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, everywhere. So avalanche.org is like the website. Super good. And then it's an interactive map. So wherever you are, you can find the location of a close by forecast. Now, I really have to emphasize though, like if there's not a forecast for your area, you can't be like, oh, well, there's a forecast area that's like 10 miles away, so it must be the same snowpack. It doesn't work that way. So I just want to emphasize that.
Sweet. Okay. Any other questions?
I see one that says, I do have a Garmin, but it shows the same calories burnt when I do my 30-pound weight and without that. Oh, so you're using using the Garmin weight, and it says I do the 30-pound weight or without that. So, okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know really. To be honest, I don't know the answer to that one then. Have you tried using a heart rate monitor like on you? That's going to give you more accurate ones. So the smartwatches are great, but if you wanted the most accurate one, you're going to need a Bluetooth heart rate monitor that you wrap around your chest here.
Nice.
So maybe that.
Okay, question from Pam in the chat. She is driving and not able to save any of the links, any place where I can find them at the seminar. Yes, the seminar is being recorded and I'm going to pop it on the Alpine Ascents blog probably in a couple of days with a list of all the links Elias talked about in the webinar today. So if you didn't take notes, like no worries, we've got you covered. Question from Chris: what's the best way to practice rescue systems when you don't have a partner?
Ooh, big one, because I'm the same way. A lot of there's a lot of companies that have made like anchor systems that you can hang up in your wall or in your room, and then you can build things like that as well. But a lot of times I've built anchor systems in my house, or like crevasse rescue systems, just using all my ropes, carabiners, and gear, and I'll just tie it to chairs or anything like that, and just get real creative with it. Especially if you're by yourself, there's no one around to like judge you. So,
Awesome.
but yeah, it's challenging, but yeah, getting creative with it. And then there's one company called Practice Bolts.
Mm.
And maybe Mary can put the link in there, I'll find it. And it's really cool magnet bolts that you can put anywhere that's metal, and then you can build anchor systems right there.
Sweet. And then what about if someone wanted to practice like beacon drill?
Yeah, beacon drills is great. It's going to be more realistic if you have a partner. So if you have the partner burying for you. One thing me and my friend did when we had no snow at all, but we needed to do beacon practicing before the season started, is so we got like 10 white trash bags, and then we only put 2 beacons in each of them, and then we put them all across this parking lot. And
Cool.
Yeah, and so like obviously you're not going to get the probing part and the shoveling part done, but you're going to be able to like work on your signal search, your core search, your fine grid search, and because you don't know which trash bag it is, and so you got to really use the beacon. So again, getting really creative, finding people to practice with. It can be hard, but again, back to those forums and those group chats and stuff like that, I think everybody is getting more and more eager to do it, and it's a perishable skill. So like taking a course and being like, oh, I'm certified, I'm good to go, I'm saved. It's like, no, you got to really stay on top of that. And so I like to practice. I work at some heli guide operations, and we're practicing, once a week maybe, or something like that. And then I'm doing a couple times a season, at least 4 or 5 times a season. So
let's see, any other questions?
I don't see anyone. I love the calorie one. That's cool. I'm going to work on that one.
Okay.
These links are great. Awesome. Pam, drive safe.
Totally. Cool. Well, Elias, before we wrap up, like any final words for us to consider as we are now super stoked to go out and like get some backcountry trips under our belts for the season?
Yeah. So play with the map programs, practice talking to your groups and being transparent, being honest. Don't be afraid to ski with other people and new people that you aren't familiar with, but definitely dial things back a little bit. I really love that one, because as you ski with other people, you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to learn things you don't want to do or things you would love to do. And then also being really inclusive. Like, I can't express enough how important it is to really include everyone in this. The mountains are for everyone. And so that everyone is welcome here and deserves a spot here in the mountains. And so like, if there's someone that, wants to get in the mountains really bad, take a day and go and ski something really low angle with them. And I just can't emphasize, people are like, oh, I'm going to drag you behind, or I'm going to waste your day. It's like, it's so worth it, I think. And as this community gets bigger and stronger, then we can progress through the mountains safer and be a big, strong pillar community.
Awesome. Oh, I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Elias, for taking this afternoon to educate us in the finer points of backcountry tour planning. Like I said, this webinar will be recorded, so if you didn't take notes, don't even worry about it. Look for it on the Alpine Ascents blog in a couple of days. And with that, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And Elias, hopefully you get some more great turns in up in Alaska in the coming weeks.
Thanks, Marion. I'll see you this spring.
Okay. Bye.
Later.